Hello, and welcome back to the Westwick Enterprising Podcast. My name is Chantal Costello, and I'm your host for today. Today, we are back with another client-focused episode, and I'm delighted to be joined by Michael Furey, the CEO of Ronspot. We are very excited to have you on today, Michael. Would you like to briefly outline to our listeners what Ronspot is all about, who you are, and what you do?
Hi, Chantal. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're delighted to be on your podcast today and kind of share, I suppose, some of the learnings and thoughts that we have over the last couple of years with Ronspot. And it's been a very exciting journey, and it's been obviously, it's had its challenges with COVID, like every other company out there, really. And it's, in many ways, it's provided opportunities as well, and that's kind of what we've tried to focus on. We've tried to kind of focus on kind of what's positive and how change can actually be good at times as well. In terms of where we came from, originally we signed our first customer in 2018, January 2018. I had contacts in the pharmaceutical industry in Dublin, and they approached me, and they knew my background in software, and they said, look, we have this really major issue with our car parking at our site in Sandyford. And essentially, it's an issue everyone would have been familiar with, certainly before COVID, where there's never enough parking for employees, and where people can commute, into Dublin city centre using the Lewis or whatever they did, but that wasn't an option for everybody, and it's Ireland as well. We are very car dependent, and so a lot of people would drive, but there's never enough parking spaces. So this particular company had tried various solutions itself, from its own homegrown solutions where they just tried it on Excel to manage it, and they looked around for solutions, and there was actually nothing off the shelf, which was a surprise at the time. But the end result of it all was that their employees weren't happy, and this company, it was a very employee-focused company, and they really wanted, to distribute the parking a lot more fairly. Even their upper management didn't have parking spaces, so they ended up parked out on the road at times. So they approached us, and we developed a solution just to make it fairer for everybody to get parking and a more even distribution. We were very lucky as well, as in they had put a reasonable budget aside to develop the prototype, the very first version. And that almost never happens. You get approached by a company and they say, we'd love this solution, and you guys go build it, and yeah, we'll definitely use it, but you go build it first and show it to us, and we'll use it. And that's a very difficult way to do it, because you really are depending on the company then to come back with the goods after that. But in this example, they put a budget together, and they also had a very detailed spec as to what they wanted. So it was the perfect sort of prototype starter project that we put together. I had access to good engineers, and we put together the solution in about 2 months, and we launched it in January 2018. It was a huge success, which was, another thing that you rarely see, particularly with a prototype. You tend to have to tweak it a lot. You tend to have to do a lot of work on it, get it right. Something doesn't work. Something wasn't delivered the way the expectation. Somewhere things didn't meet together. But that didn't happen in this case. And it was right in the middle of an industrial park in Sandyford. And very quickly then we signed up other customers, who saw the success of the project with this. So we were very lucky. It was almost a textbook example of how you run out a prototype project at the time, with a customer who was very engaged. And that was really important. And I'd learned enough at that point that if they weren't really engaged, I probably wouldn't have gone with it, because I'd have recognized the fact that good intentions are great, but they were really willing to put money behind the project. And that's really what made the difference for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just there, you kind of alluded to it, how I suppose the journey began, but it seems that network was very important all along those stages, how the company knew to approach you. So what was the beginning of that, I suppose, pipeline of network? Or you said your background was in technology, so how, where were you before Ronspot, or how did you fall into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, fell in is definitely the correct term. I certainly didn't grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur, and I even sometimes struggle to, define what is an entrepreneur. But certainly I've been involved in, homegrown growth type businesses, both as CEO and not as a CEO. So, back 20 years ago, I was involved in companies in Mayo. And then after that, I started my own software company in Galway. That was a reasonable success, and that sort of definitely gave me an appetite for more. We sold that one in 2007, 2008. And then I was consulting really for a period of time, essentially. And it was over that consulting period where I feel I really honed my sort of knowledge of projects and products and business and kind of what to jump at and what to leave alone is not going to work. And to understand what the customer needs, what the market needs, and what you're capable of delivering as well. That's very important. And I've made lots of mistakes. I've tried to develop products that just the demand wasn't there, and that's the biggest mistake you can make. And you're looking at it with my background in technology. I tend to look at the cool technology, and this would be a great solution, and people will love this. And then you develop it, and they don't, because they don't really want it, and they don't really see the utility and the benefit of it. So it's very, very important you start from the customer's point of view. So I spent a few years consulting really for various companies all over Dublin, doing sort of one-off software projects that they simply paid for and we gave them. So there was no kind of long-term product there. But actually that period of time, be it 7-8 years, I think was probably my greatest period of growth from the point of view of understanding how you manage a customer, how you manage a product, and how you manage something that is scalable. Even though I wasn't in the scalable business at the time, made a lot of contacts, and from there, then one of those contacts came in, and when they approached us about building this product, which subsequently turned out to be Ronspot, I personally was well primed. I was kind of late 40s, mid to late 40s. I'd huge amount of experience. I'd a lot of failures behind me, some successes as well. And and it was just timing was very, very good then when that happened. But those contacts I built up over the years very important.
No, definitely. And just something that you alluded to there as well. I think the mindset in Ireland is shifting a little bit around failure and the importance of failure, especially in the entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Yeah.
Just that a lot of times in the past, entrepreneurs or people with an idea even would try something out, fail it, and go back to industry. Whereas now I think people are trying a bit more and learning and progressing continuously throughout their careers. So it's fantastic to see that there's hope for everyone out there.
There is, and it's interesting because there's so many great companies in Ireland. That means there's really great job roles in Ireland as well. So an awful lot of the talent is actually hoovered up by the multinationals, or by homegrown big large companies as well, like the food companies, the Glambias, the Kerrys of this world. That's where an awful lot of the big talent goes, because it's a very safe job. They're well paid generally. It makes a lot of sense to be working in those. So I think, but on the other hand, people who come out of those organizations tend to come out with global experience, kind of real knowledge about how the business world works. And if they're willing to take a gamble, there are some great supports in this country. There really are, between Westbic, Enterprise Ireland, and other state agencies, to kind of really help you to grow it. So the biggest thing for most people is the risk. By the time they've done maybe 15-20 years in industry and they're thinking about, maybe I'll try something myself, you're going to have children probably, a lot of costs, sending kids to school, maybe college, all those types of things, and it's hard, and you do have to take a drop probably in your income when you make that decision. I guess I was slightly different, and I was sort of in this space for years and years and years, kind of struggling along, and really, you're better off sometimes just fail quick and just get it done and get it out of the way. The worst position to be in is bumping along the bottom, where you kind of you have enough to keep going, and you get very passionate about your own projects, and how do you really want them to work. But it's earning enough to keep you in a job, but not enough really to scale. And that's I always think that's the gray area where it's toughest, where you're better off, if you can, just let it fail and move on to something else then at that point. But it's very difficult to do.
Yes, of course. Just something there that you touched on is the available supports in the Irish ecosystem. So I just like to delve into that a little bit more, because I think a lot of the supports in Ireland, even Westbic's own service, sometimes it kind of goes unknown, and that it's, there's a lot of supports there, and it's something that's continuously praised in Ireland, but it's something that a lot of people don't know about. So just what are the supports that you would have received through the startup and as well as your scaling processes, and just what advice would you give to somebody that was looking, to avail of some of these supports?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of involvement with Westbig, working with John Brennan there in Galway, and you get some fantastic help around putting your financial models together, and that's really important. When you're trying to put together a credible plan for investors, you need to have credible financial plans that you can show people. And while we develop those plans ourselves, having someone like Westbig to throw their eye over it and to sanity check it is really, really important. But that type of support is very kind of consultancy type based. And then with someone like Enterprise Ireland, they can be a mix of both. So we've been fortunate enough to have got two investments from Enterprise Ireland in Ronspot as part of our. We've probably gone through two seed rounds at this stage, up to about 2 million. And Enterprise Ireland have been a huge supporter of us and the people we're dealing with in there. They've been fantastic. But what doesn't get mentioned as much, and I can see for entrepreneurs, they're always looking at the money, and this, so they really would love to get financial support, and it is very important. But we've had huge support from Enterprise Ireland outside of the money side of things. So I personally did the New Frontiers program a few years back. And even though I had been a so-called entrepreneur for years, I mean, the learnings on that New Frontiers program was amazing for me. It really brought me to another level in terms of focusing on what's important. And then subsequently, as with people in Ronspot as well, we did the entering the Eurozone program with Enterprise Ireland. We just completed that actually recently. And again, that was a fantastic program. And we got access to worldwide experts on different topics of scaling a business in Germany and in Italy. We traveled over there. You make great contacts. You make people who are really focused on what's important in terms of this stage of your business. So it's designed for companies of our size trying to scale. An interesting thing about the program we did in Germany, the German federal government, this was in Berlin, they had people in the room just watching because they want to emulate what Enterprise Ireland do. So they had local enterprise officers from Berlin just sitting and watching how Enterprise Ireland do their business. It's really important. I know the IDA get quite rightly some great press in Ireland for all the great work that they do, but for local small companies like ourselves, Enterprise Ireland are absolutely a crucial cog in the wheel. I don't think we'd be here without them.
No, I absolutely agree. Big advocate for Enterprise Ireland. So they have a lot of fantastic programs, and particularly the New Frontiers program. I know a lot of success stories have come out of it, and I think they've just launched another program recently. So it's great to see that there's great interest there as well. Just to bring it back a little bit to Ronspot's own service, I suppose you've mentioned that the product has evolved over the years, and I know COVID-19 has had a huge part to play in that. So would you mind just explaining to our listeners a little bit about how you pivoted the business model and how that has affected the business over the years?
Yeah, no, absolutely. When we started originally, we were dealing with car parks only, so company car parks, not public car parks. We were growing quite rapidly, and it was all bootstrapped. So every bit of money we make, we're putting back into the business, but it was only growing around car parks. But we were getting international clients. We were very happy. And then COVID hit us all very hard, very quickly in March 2000. And we could see even in our own reports, every single car park in the world emptied overnight because everybody had to stay at home. So essentially, we had a product that nobody actually needed at that point in time. Now, at the time, people are saying, COVID will be a couple of weeks, then it'll be a month, then it'll be 3 months, then 6 months. And, it just obviously as time went on and our heads started to adjust around to how big an issue this was. I'd say we were fortunate in some cases that we had annual contracts put in with a lot of our customers, and even in some cases we had 3-year contracts. So we weren't dead in the water, but it was obviously a huge issue for us because nobody was signing up, needed the service anymore. So we said, look, let's use this time that we have now to, I wouldn't say pivot, Chantal, but we certainly added features that were complementary to what we had already. And we were betting on the fact that car parks would be needed again in the future in these. What we probably didn't fully recognize at the time was, and again, think back to March 2020, was how substantially people would move to this hybrid workplace. So we started to add in desk management and then meeting room management. And to do that, because we didn't have extra income coming in, we had to go do a funding round. So we did a funding round through 2020 as a seed funding round with the help of HBAN and Enterprise Ireland. And that was very successful. And we were delighted with that. We're delighted to get those investors on board, these angel type investors. And we were very grateful for their support and their view of where the business is going to go. So we used 2020 really to get funding in, get investment into the business, and reposition the product into desking, parking, and meeting rooms, and really then reposition into a hybrid solution. Which by that stage, end of 2020, everybody was talking about the hybrid workplace. So it's a good example of what started out as a huge problem for us actually became an opportunity, and that opportunity has grown since then, and we've seen multiple growth, annual growth in our business, purely because of where the world has gone now with hybrid workplace. We wouldn't be the size we are now without that big change haven't happened.
Yeah, definitely, Michael. But I suppose as well, there's credit to be gotten where credit is due in the fact that you've adapted as time has gone on and you've identified where there's a gap in the market that you can capitalize on. So not only is the world changing, but I suppose having a mindset, a growth mindset that you can roll with it, kind of go with the world in that sense.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. It was. And it's kind of obvious now when you look back. I mean, of course, why would we not add all these in? But at the time, it wasn't necessarily, and everything was in flux and everything was uncertain, Um, but now looking back, it was a great decision, and it's done very well for the organization. So we're really happy with how it's gone. But on the other hand, as well, it's brought a lot of new entries into the market as well. So, but they've come in a year, 18 months, 2 years behind where we were. So it's just ourselves and a couple of other companies really who are leading the market, even though there's dozens and dozens and dozens of other entries who've come in, but too late in the game, in my view. So long as we continue to obviously to push forward, So we're very happy where we are today for sure.
No, that's fantastic. And just then, looking back at the experience that you've gotten over your career so far, would there be any standout piece of advice that you'd like to pass on to any startup company who's kind of trying to enter any market, not particularly your one, but any market? And what advice would you pass on to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, one thing, I suppose I'd have a couple of pieces of advice in terms of kind of how you manage yourself and then how you manage your people, I guess. Um, One thing I would say, Chantal, is nobody knows your business like you know your business. You do get great advice from people who really know business very, very well, and it's fantastic, and it does give you kind of a new view on things. But it's very important to trust yourself, and to trust your knowledge of what's happening in the business, and not be purely driven by what is the normal thing to do in a situation. And the reason you have that knowledge is because you obviously work it 7 days a week. You never stop thinking about your business. You never stop thinking about the options. What if I do this? What if I do that? Nobody understands the business like yourself, and it's important to acknowledge that, as be it as a CEO or some senior management or anybody in the company, they live and breathe it every single day. And so make your decisions yourself. Really take all the advice on board for sure, but make your decisions. Don't make other people's decisions. Don't take some say you must absolutely do this, and the chances are they will not have thought about it as deeply as you have, even though they might be fantastic business people and experts in that area. So that's one thing, is kind of trust yourself and trust your own experience and knowledge of what's going on. That's very, very important. The second thing, very quickly, I would say as well, is about your people. So the people that you hire into the business, I did have a tendency, and I still do it, and I'm trying not to as much as sometimes, when an issue crops up, it's as easy just jump in there and solve it yourself, and just fix it, and it's kind of done and out of the way, rather than try and explain how it can be fixed to somebody maybe whose area it's under. So trust your people more. You obviously have to bring them up to speed. It takes time, and they need to understand the business and understand the solutions and how all that works, and avoid the temptation of just trying to jump in and solve every single problem that's going on, and trust your people to eventually come up with the right solutions themselves. And again, it's kind of your baby. You've grown up with it. You know it better than anybody else, and you're always tempted to be all about finding a solution for everything, and an entrepreneur tends to have that mindset anyway. But it's important to put that trust out to the people that you hire as well, because give them time, and that they'll, over time they'll just come up with better solutions to yourself, even because that's what they think about all day long.
Hmm. I suppose as well, there's an element of bringing people up, but sometimes you can be too close to a project that you might not see exactly, the problem at hand, whereas somebody in the team that might not be as experienced as you are might be able to look at it from another angle too, I suppose.
100%. And again, these Enterprise Ireland programs like New Frontiers and the Eurozone program, where you're getting access to expertise, they always bring something new, something to the table
Hmm.
that you can then apply to your own business. So absolutely, it's really important to listen to outside voices. Yeah, for sure.
And just then being in the industry, I suppose, that you are, what approach do you take within your own team to remote working?
Yeah, it's an interesting one where I would say we have two teams. We have an Irish team and we have a team that works abroad. The team that works abroad, actually, they all work in an office, and the Irish team are by and large working from home. So we have an office here in Galway, in the ATU, the GMIT Innovation Hub, as was once known, which is absolutely fantastic. And we're delighted to be here, and we'll be here for as long as they don't kick us out. Um, it's a brilliant facility. You get everything you need here. You also meet other people in the same boat as yourself, and it's just good to have those conversations and to know you're not alone either. Um, but our team are distributed across the country. So we had one guy in Lisbon for a while. He's back in Dublin. We've another girl in Dublin. We've people around Galway. I personally myself tend to come into the office. I like being in the office, and I like just working from here. But I live just out the road. It's not very far away. We've other people come in and out. It's a little bit sort of haphazard. Our office couldn't take everybody. I'd say that. So we'll always have an element of hybrid, and people will be working from home. It works well so far, but we recently had a company day in the office where everybody came in and we just all kind of kicked around ideas together. And that was hugely valuable as well. So I think a mix is where we'll be going from now on.
Definitely. I think a lot of businesses are the same at the moment, and that keeps people happy too, which is very important.
Yeah.
Just then, you mentioned that you're based in the ATU Innovation Hub. So, what other advantages would you say that you reap from being based there? I know there's like networking opportunities and being surrounded by like-minded businesses who I suppose could be in the same position as you as well. So, what other advantages would you see by being based there?
Yeah, well, I've seen both sides of the coin. So I've hired my own place in the past, and it's so much more hassle than you realize. Only when you come into somewhere like the ATU Innovation Hub, and it's simple things like it's security around the building, and that's even important when a lot of our customers are they're well-known global brands. We have to do security questionnaires with them, and they ask us about the security of the building, all this type of stuff, and that's just all taken as a given here. Even simple things like you have a canteen that's a very clean building. It's based on campus here. We've hired a couple of people, not through GMIT but through the university, so you get access to these types of programs as well as a client company within the ATU, and you're made aware of these types of programs. And simple things, that the lease is very flexible. There's all sorts of good reasons, to be based in here. And I would, as I say, I'll stick it out for as long as I possibly can get away with it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I don't want to keep you for too much longer, Michael. I know how busy you are. So I just have a few more follow-up questions. So just I
Sure.
know that you're just off the back of your latest funding round, having raised 1.1 million in investment funding. So there's a lot of exciting plans in the pipeline for Ronspot. But what would you say you're most excited about right now?
Yeah, so we want to expand into other countries, but we want to do it in a more sort of structured manner. We do have, and we're looking at Germany in particular. We do have customers in Germany already. We've customers, I think, in 35 countries around the world now. But it's been a little bit haphazard up to now, and we're taking a more formal approach and hiring based on that. So tackling into the German market is hugely important for us now over the next 6 months, and we're excited about that. And we've an awful lot of the groundwork done for it, and we just kind of need to get on with it now at this point. Um, we've a head of sales arriving soon. We've just hired a new salesperson, a Spanish-speaking person in Dublin. So an awful lot of our hires right now are very much around sales, growing the business. We've a very mature product, and that's going to continue in the background. But we're really excited about growing the business at this point and just signing more and more customers.
That's fantastic. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, where is the best place to find you? We'll add your contact details in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so the best place is our website. So ronspotflexwork.com. That's RONSPOT. For those who are interested, Ronspot is our first customer was in a place called Red Oak North, so RON. So and we just added a spot to the end of it, so Ronspot. So Ronspot Flexwork. You just reach out to us through the contact form there, and you can talk to any of the sales guys on there. I'm always available for a chat, or just you can drop my email there as well, Chantal. So it's michael.furey at ronspotflexwork.com. Always happy to talk to people. So definitely through the website. And again, our marketing team do a lot of good work on LinkedIn as well. So reach out to there as well. We'll definitely connect.
That's brilliant. So thank you very much for everything today, Michael. It's been very insightful. So just before we finish up, we'll go through the quickfire round. So our regular listeners will know that we just do a quickfire round at the end of each episode, just to kind of pick your brain a little bit and get to know you a little bit more. Brilliant. So do you prefer to work from home or the office?
Work from the office.
You kind of already answered that one. But Apple or Windows?
Oh, Apple for sure.
Email or phone calls?
Email.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
LinkedIn or Twitter?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I use them both heavily, but LinkedIn for creating connections, Twitter for browsing, I would say.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
I'm an early bird, yeah.
That got anything to do with the lack of coffee?
Yeah. No, it's just bad habits over the years. Yeah, I tend to be in bed early, all right, but I do get up early, yeah.
Great. Reading or podcast?
Actually, again, a mix of both, but I've probably moved over to podcast more. Audible is probably my favorite app, so I listen to a lot of books when I'm out walking on that. So that's kind of a mix of audio and books, then, isn't it?
Yeah. And then time blocking or winging it?
I probably wing it a bit too much. I'm getting better at it. And again, as the team grows within Ronspot, winging it becomes less and less of an option. And you do need more structure. So I'd say I'm naturally a person who wings it, but I need to get better at getting more structured about how I do things.
Very good. And then just the last one is: do you get more or less than 8 hours sleep?
Less, a lot less. Yeah. I wish my sleeping pattern was better. I could be working at 5 a.m. absolutely no problem. Sleeping pattern actually is a very important one for anyone trying to, I think, run a business. If they can kind of just try and put the work aside a little bit and just get their sleep, that's very, very important. The other thing I would say is exercise as well. I try to every day just do an hour's exercise. It's great for, obviously, the physical benefits, but it allows you to switch off from the business as well, which is important.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Especially if you're getting fresh air involved there as well on your walk.
Exactly.
That's very important for the mental side of things. So thank you very much, Michael, for coming on today, and thanks to all of our listeners. As we said, we'll leave your contact details in the show notes, and I know the episode was very valuable. So just thanks so much for taking the time out.
Thank you, Chantal. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to be notified about future podcasts. Please feel free to get in touch with us on social media and let us know if you found this episode beneficial. You can find us at Westpick on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. If you would like to hear more about our available supports, please get in touch via our website, www.westpick.ie. And of course, stay tuned for our next podcast episode.